Oh yeah, 10 slides in there. And there's still room. Yee doggy. I'm having trouble with the brakes on this vehicle. When I hit the brakes, there's a thump, 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 which isn't good. So I'm gonna go ahead, pull off the front wheels. I think I've got warped rotors, and if I do, change them out and I'll show you how to do it. Now just from driving it and tapping on the brakes real lightly, holding the brakes down real light, I can feel that thumping. But just to confirm that, I'm going to jack up the front left side here, and I'm going to spin the wheel by hand and see if I feel that pulsating. Now that side seems pretty constant. I'll go ahead and try the other side. And that side seems pretty constant also. But I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing on the back just to make sure. Now, of course, there's one surefire test. This is a rear-wheel drive vehicle. I'm going to jack up the back tires, put them up on blocks as I've done here. You can see. I'm going to rest this on the blocks. And I'm going to start the truck, put it in gear, and lightly press the foot brake. And if I get that pulsating, I'm isolating the back brakes here. So if I get that pulsating with this jacked up, the front is not spinning, that'll tell me it's the back. If I don't get the pulsating, then I know I've identified the front rotors as being warped. Definitely have it in the back. I will go ahead and run it, and I'll show you. You'll see my leg kind of jumping. I don't know if you can see that. I sure can feel it. I sure feel it in the back. And it's possible it could be all four, but since I know for sure that the back is bad, we can go ahead and change that, and if it's still pulsating, then I need to do the front also. That's why I like to diagnose. I don't want to just throw money at something and guess. I'd rather diagnose, identify the problem, and then buy something. You can save a lot of money that way. Wow, looks like our pads are getting low. So I'm going to pop this caliper off, pop the pads out, and take a look at that. I can see it scraping here, and then not scraping here. Let me show that to you. And hopefully you can see this. And that's why I was spinning the wheel, just to see if I could pick up a pulsating sound. But you can see that rotor's pretty clean right here. And then all of a sudden we got a scrape from the brake pad. Scraping there. You can see it scraping, scraping, scraping. And then it's clean right here. So this thing is warped, but I'm still going to dig a little deeper. Let's pull this off. This is a 10 millimeter. There's a bolt with a slide pin here and one down here. Slide that off. Oh yeah, I got to change the pads on here. Yee doggy. Now this front one, you can see there's a little clip here and a little clip there. That's what holds that on. You can see how thin that pad is. Not much left there. You can see this. This is the top. It's got that U there, and the bottom is just a hook there. Because I'm going to change these, they're so thin, I'm going to take my C-clamp, leave the pad in there, and I'm going to depress the caliper piston. Real slow. Some people crack open the top of the master cylinder, but that shouldn't be necessary. Just about there. And there we go. And now I can pop this pad out, and it's just got a clip that snaps in there. And you can see how thin that pad is too. Not good. Our boot's okay around there, no leaks. Okay, I got my little setup here, and I'm going to check for warpage on this. I just took a jack stand, a screwdriver, and a magnet that I use for welding, and I found the high spot on this rotor, and that's it right there, and I put that screwdriver against that. I've got a feeler gauge here, and I'm going to go ahead and spin it around till that opens up, and we'll measure that and see how warped it is. There, it's hitting right there. Now it's opened up there. Let me go ahead and measure it right there. Now there's different tolerances for different vehicles, but surely I don't want 5/1000ths. Oh yeah, 5 slides right in there. Too much. And I'm not even getting it all the way flat. Oh yeah, 8 slides right in there. With room to spare. Anyways, that's how you can check for a warped rotor. And this rotor is definitely warped. And you could see it by the scuff marks on here too. So it's between 8 and 10 around there. This rotor's definitely got to be changed out. I'm going to order a pair for the back, and I'll show you how to do that. Now I put the caliper back on and just loosely put the bolts back in, but you don't want to just leave that hanging by the brake line. Those brake lines are rubber, and if they're a little old, well, even if they're not old, you can cause problems with leaks. You don't want to put that stress on those rubber lines. Got new pads, new rotors, and I was going to order them online because I figured nobody could beat their price, but I got them local. Of course, it comes with a 2-year warranty on the rotors and lifetime on the pads, and that's a lot easier than dealing with a mail order deal with Amazon or eBay or whatever. So I was happy to find that for just a few bucks more. Well, let's go ahead, pull the rest of this off, change them out, and move on. Go ahead and pull these rotors off. I cheated a little bit, but I took a hammer. I know the brake pads, the parking brake wasn't stuck. If it is, right behind here is a plug, just a little rubber plug. And once you pull that plug out, there's a little wheel, gear wheel in there. You just take your screwdriver, push it up or push it down if you want to tighten or loosen the parking brake. And then after you do that, make sure you put that plug back in. That keeps moisture out of there, which is a big key to keeping everything in good condition in there. So that's all sealed up. Anyways, I got it loosened up and mine weren't stuck, so I didn't have to adjust them. But we can pull this off. Now I want to point out inside here is the minimum thickness of the disc, 12 millimeters. So if you have your discs or your rotors turned, you can't go below that. And if you do, they're going to warp real easy. Now I checked on getting these turned. Around here is $40 to have truck rotors turned. They do cars for $30. Well, I think for $5 more, I got brand new ones with a 2-year warranty, so it really doesn't make sense unless you can turn them yourself or find a better deal. Anyways, we'll set that aside. You want to be real careful about brake dust. Don't want to breathe that in. Now this is the hub here, and you want to clean up the hub. If you live in especially a northern city where you get a lot of salt, where you live on a dirt or gravel road, you want to check. You might need to grind this down, sand this down, and mine's in fine condition here. I'll take a wire brush and just wire brush this a little bit, but I don't use anti-seize or anything on here. Because of the area I live in and where I drive, I don't need to mess with any of that. It wasn't hard getting that rotor off. And these guide pins, mine operate real nice and smooth, but to take them out, you can change these boots if you need to. If your boots are ripped or busted up, you can get these new boots. You can also get the guide pins. And for mine, I just want to lubricate them. So I'm just going to push this through, and there's just a little lip that sits in there. And just slide these through. Set this aside. There's this special silicone grease lubricant that's made for this. This is the one that I have, and you just put a little bit of that on the guide pin, spread it around evenly. Take your caliper and just get it back in the top there. There we go. And it just slides through. Got to get past that groove on there. There we go. Push it through, and this one locks in down here. That little lip. There we are. A little collar on there, and then the top one, just push it down. That locked in. There, you heard it click probably. And we're all set. And do the other one the same. Now if your caliper is all gummed up, you can clean that up too with the wire brush. Mine's not bad, so I don't need to do anything, but you just take a wire brush. Of course, be careful with the rubber parts, but you can clean that up, clean the surface of this. Don't tear this rubber here. And if you're going to spray parts cleaner, brake cleaner on here, you want to spray in this direction and stay away from the boot for this piston. And I stay away from the rubbers on these too for the guide pins. And just wipe that down. And you might need a lot more cleaning than that in your area, but so we're all set with that. Working nice and smooth. No tears. If you need to take these boots out, you can just push them all the way through, just like I pushed the guide pin through. Push that out, and if yours have been ripped for a while, it might be corroded inside this housing here, and you just want to take a round file or a small wire brush or even a little piece of sandpaper and clean that up a little bit. And then you can just put a little grease on this boot, slide the boot back through, and then put the guide pin back in, and you're all set just like this. Now the new shoes come with anti-rattle clips for the shoes right here and here, and I'll go ahead and throw those on. I'll take the old ones off. Might be a little stuck, and I'll clean this up. Good. Just a touch of anti-seize or silicone lubricant on there, and then these just pop back on. Good. Just want to make sure it's on there. All the way on. And we'll do the other one. There we go. That one snapped right on. Now we can throw our new rotor on. These come with a little lubricant sealer on here. It's all sticky, and you want to wash that off. You want to get inside that drum too for your parking brake, and just wipe that down. That'll take that film off of there. Now I can throw this on. And we'll wash this side. Okay, when you're putting these pads on, just like when we took them off, we paid attention, and that the hook goes on the bottom and the U goes on the top to lock in. So that's how you can take your caliper out. You just slide it up that way. So make sure you put that back the same way you took it apart. Make sure you don't kink the hose on your caliper. So I'm going to put the inside on first, and it just snaps in. There we go. And the outside pad, it's going to go like this, and you got to get those clips over there. There we go. And this side, there we go. There's a little nub on the back here on each side, and that nub has to go in that hole. You want to make sure that's sitting flush against the plate. There we go. And that's sitting nice and flush. See how that's nice and flush there? If it's not, kind of lift up on these, press back down. Again, make sure your hose isn't kinked. Push your guide pins back so you can fit that in there. Push those guide pins back. Otherwise you get caught up. Okay, I got the top one and the bottom one. And now we can put our bolts back in, and you just got to kind of wiggle it around a little bit and do these by hand. Putting these in, you don't want to cross thread them. You want to make sure you got it lined up just right, which I do on that one. And then the bottom one, you might have to jiggle it around a little bit to line them up. Sliding right in there. And then we'll take our 10mm wrench, tighten these down, and once I get them tight, I just hit them like that, make sure they're good and snug. And you can see how nicely this slides with these guide pins. If those guide pins get gummed up, corroded, they'll stick, and you'll have, like this pad will wear out real fast, or the inside pad will wear out real fast, and the other one might not even be used. So it's very important to get those lubricated with the proper lubricant. Now we're all set to put our wheel back on. You always want to tighten your lug nuts in that crisscross pattern. And now I'm going to go do the same thing on the other side. Now a couple important things to finish this up. You want to torque those lug nuts down to whatever the manufacturer calls for. Now, a lot of the Ford F-150s, which this is, calls for 150 foot-pounds. But this is a 2002, and I think the 97 to 2003 calls for 100 foot-pounds. You don't want to over-torque those. If you do, that can cause your rotors to warp. You can bust, depending upon what kind of wheels you have, you can bust your wheels and cause other problems. So you want to go ahead and torque these down. So I'm going to set this at 100. And I got this, well, I got it a few years ago, but I got this at Harbor Freight, and I think it only cost me $12 or $15. There's 100 right there. Tighten this down. And you want to go in a crisscross pattern. Now there's one last important thing we need to do before we go out and test drive it. Let's go ahead and start your vehicle. And your brake pedal is going to be soft. It's going to go down because we backed off those pistons in the calipers. So we need to push that fluid back in there. We didn't let any air in the system. But if you just go and take off, you're going to have a soft pedal and you might run into something. So I'll push it down. Goes way down. Push it down again. It's coming up. Coming up. Good. And now we're ready to take her for a test drive. I hope this video was a help to you. If it was, give her a thumbs up. If you haven't already, please consider subscribing. And I look forward to helping you with other projects online. And I just got around to taking it out for a test drive. And hitting the brakes now. She is smooth as silk. How about that? That's a good feeling. I really couldn't pull a trailer with this because those brakes were so bad. Usually it's your front brakes, but this time it's the back. Glad to get it fixed, and the pads were really thin anyways. Hitting the brakes one more time. Beautiful, nice and smooth.